The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, held in orbit around a dying star. Inside, representatives from 847 different species waited in silence. Some breathed oxygen. Others needed methane or ammonia. A few didn't breathe at all. But today they all had the same purpose. They were here to judge humanity. Captain Daeho Kim stood at the center of the chamber. His gray uniform was crisp and clean, but his face showed the marks of too many battles. Scars ran across his left cheek. His hair had gone silver at the temples. He was 52 years old, and he had spent 30 of those years fighting. First in Earth's wars, then in the colonies. Now he stood as Earth's defender in a trial he knew was already lost. Next to him stood Dr. Yuna Park. She was younger, only 38, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had spent her life studying alien species, trying to understand them. She believed in peace. She believed the galaxy could work together. Today would test that belief. Ambassador Hyunwoo Lee sat behind them at the human delegation table. He was the diplomat, the one who knew how to talk to aliens, how to make deals. But even he looked worried. He had tried for months to stop this trial. He had failed. High Arbiter Thelnos called the chamber to order. The crystalline being's voice rang out like a bell. We gather to judge the species known as humanity. They stand accused of aggressive expansion, military buildup, and threats to galactic peace. Counselor Vextar rose from his seat. The methane breather's tank hissed as he moved. His species, the Quillith, had been part of the council for over 50,000 years. They considered themselves the guardians of civilization. The evidence is clear, Vextar said. His translator made his voice sound cold and sharp. In just 15 years, humanity has colonized 47 star systems. Most species take a century to colonize 5 systems. Humanity spreads like a disease. Daeho felt his jaw tighten, but he kept silent. Not yet. He had to wait for his turn to speak. Furthermore, Vextar continued, every human colony maintains military forces, weapons, warships, soldiers. This violates council law. We demilitarized 10,000 years ago. We chose peace. Humanity refuses to do the same. The chamber filled with sounds. Clicks, whistles, hums. Each species had their own way of showing agreement. The council was turning against Earth. Vextar projected images into the center of the chamber. Human ships, human weapons, human marines in battle armor. Look at them. They are a warrior species. Violent, dangerous. They will bring war to our galaxy. Finally, Thelnos turned to Daeho. The accused may speak. Daeho stepped forward. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of creatures who looked nothing like him. You call us aggressive. You call us dangerous. But you don't understand why we are the way we are. He pulled up his own images. Earth, beautiful and blue, then Earth in flames, cities burning, oceans boiling. This is what we did to ourselves. For thousands of years we fought. We killed each other over land, over resources, over ideas. We nearly destroyed our own planet 3 times. The chamber grew quiet. We learned something from all that death, Daeho said. We learned that the universe doesn't care about peace. It doesn't care if you're good or bad. Danger is real. Threats are real. So we keep our weapons. We keep our soldiers, not because we want war, because we never want to be helpless again. Yuna stepped forward beside him. We colonize quickly because Earth is crowded. 15 billion people need space. We bring our military because we can't ask for help from the council. It takes you months to make a decision. We've sent requests for aid 23 times. You've answered twice. Vextar's tank hissed louder. This is primitive thinking. We evolved past such fear millions of years ago. The galaxy is safe. We made it safe. Safe? Daeho shook his head. You've been lucky. For 10,000 years, nothing has threatened you. But luck runs out. The universe is bigger than this galaxy. You don't know what's out there in the dark. Hyunwoo stood up. We're not asking to break your laws. We're asking you to change them. Let species defend themselves. Let us keep what we need to protect our people. The arguing went on for hours. Species after species spoke. Some defended humanity. Most didn't. The older species, the ones who had been in the council the longest, saw Earth as a threat to their control. The younger species were afraid. If they sided with humanity, the elder species might punish them too. Finally, Thelnos called for the vote. The chamber went silent again. Light filled the space as each representative made their choice. Red for guilty, blue for innocent. The lights appeared one by one. Red, red, red. A few blues scattered among them, but mostly red. So much red, Thelnos spoke. The council finds humanity guilty of all charges. Deho felt Una grab his arm. She was shaking. The sentence is as follows, Thelnos continued. Humanity will dismantle 90% of all military forces. You will surrender 40 colony worlds. You will accept technology restrictions. And humanity will hold junior status in this council with no voting rights until you prove you can follow our laws. How long? Hyunwoo asked, his voice tight. 500 years, minimum. Deho's hands curled into fists. You have 6 months to comply, Thelnos said. If you refuse, we will use enforcement action. Military force. Do you understand? Deho stepped forward. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. I understand that you're making a mistake. You think the galaxy is safe because you made it that way, but you didn't. You just got lucky for a long time. That luck will run out. And when it does, you'll wish you had listened to us. Vextar laughed. It was an ugly sound through the translator. Threats from a species barely out of their own solar system. Typical human arrogance. Not a threat, Deho said quietly. A warning. The universe is bigger and more dangerous than you remember. We know that. We lived it. You forgot, the council dismissed them. The human delegation walked out through the long corridors of the station. None of them spoke until they reached their ship. Once inside, Una finally let the tears come. 500 years. They're going to destroy everything we built. Hyunwoo poured himself a drink with shaking hands. I'll start the evacuation plans for the 40 colonies. We'll need to move 400 million people. Deho stood at the window looking out at the stars. We'll comply for now. We have to buy time. Time for what? Una asked. To figure out what comes next. Far away, at the edge of the galaxy, sensors that humanity had placed in secret detected something. Strange readings, gravitational waves that didn't match any natural phenomenon. Something was bending space itself, tearing holes in reality. The automated system sent alerts to human military command. But those messages would take weeks to arrive. And by then it would already be too late to warn anyone. In the council chambers, Thelnos received the same sensor data. The council's science division looked at it for 3 minutes and dismissed it. Just background radiation, natural cosmic events, nothing to worry about. They deleted the report and went back to celebrating their victory over the dangerous humans. In the darkness between galaxies, something noticed the light of civilization. It had been traveling for millions of years, consuming everything in its path. Its own galaxy was empty now, dead, but here was a new galaxy, full of life, full of food. The Voral began their approach, billions of them, all hungry, all patient. They had all the time in the world. 3 months had passed since the verdict. Admiral Minho Choi stood on the bridge of the battleship Seoul, watching as another destroyer was towed away to be scrapped. His jaw was tight. His hands were clasped behind his back so no one would see them shake with anger. That's the 47th ship this week, his second officer said quietly. Minho nodded. He didn't trust himself to speak. The council had demanded humanity dismantle 90% of their military. That meant destroying ships, shutting down weapon factories, sending soldiers home, and they had to do it all in 3 more months. On the colonies, people were packing. 40 worlds had to be evacuated. 400 million people had to leave their homes. Children who were born on those worlds would never see them again. Families were being torn apart as people chose whether to stay and live under council occupation or leave everything behind. Minho had served in the military for 30 years. He had fought pirates. He had defended colonies from raiders. Now he was being forced to throw away everything he had built, everything humanity had built. His communicator buzzed. A message from Earth Command. Continue decommissioning. Stay on schedule. No delays. He wanted to throw the device across the bridge. Instead, he sent a simple reply. Understood, but Minho had a secret. Not all the ships were being destroyed. Some were being hidden. Some crews were being kept on duty under false records. He was breaking council law. If they found out, Earth would face immediate military action. But he didn't care anymore. He refused to leave humanity defenseless. Halfway across human space, engineer Jiwon Song sat in her small apartment, staring at data on her screen. She worked for a civilian contractor that monitored deep space. Her job was supposed to be boring. Tracking asteroid movements, checking for solar flares. Nothing exciting. But 3 days ago, she had found something strange in the old data files. The Council collected sensor information from all across the galaxy. They shared some of it with member species. Jiwan had access to the public data. What she found was that some data was missing. Large gaps, whole sections deleted or classified, and all the missing data was from the same region. The Galactic Rim. The edge of everything. She pulled up her own company's sensors. They had a few stations out that far, beyond Council space. The readings were there. Gravitational anomalies. Dozens of them. Growing stronger every day. Jiwan sent a message to the Council's Science Division. She explained what she found. She asked why they had deleted the data. She waited for a response. The reply came 6 hours later. Your data is incorrect. Recalibrate your equipment. Do not spread false information. She stared at the message. Her equipment was fine. She had checked it 3 times. The Council was lying, but why? Dr. Sunmi Kang was an astrophysicist. She had helped design humanity's deep space warning system before the verdict. The Council had ordered it shut down as part of the demilitarization. Too military, they said. But Sunmi had kept copies of all the data. Now she sat in her lab looking at the same gravitational readings Jiwan had found. But Sunmi understood what they meant. These weren't natural phenomena. These were wormholes, massive ones, and they were opening in a pattern. Something was using them to travel. Something big. She ran calculations. The wormholes were getting closer to Council space. At the current rate, they would reach the outer colonies in 4 months. Maybe less. Sunmi sent her findings to the Council. She marked it urgent. She included all her data, all her calculations. She begged them to look at it seriously. The Council's response was worse than Jiwan's. They accused Sunmi of fabricating a crisis. They said she was trying to scare people so humanity could avoid the sanctions. They threatened to charge her with spreading false information. She couldn't believe it. She sent the data to Captain Daeho Kim instead. Daeho read the report 3 times. Then he called a secret meeting. Just a few people he trusted. Admiral Minho, Dr. Yuna, Ambassador Hyunwoo, and Commander Bora Shin. Bora was Special Operations. The best of the best. If anyone could find out the truth, it was her. I need you to take a team, Daeho said. Go to the rim. Find out what's making these wormholes. Get proof. Bora looked at the data. This is outside Council space. If we go out there with a military ship, we're breaking the sanctions. I know. They could use it as an excuse to invade Earth. I know that too. Daeho met her eyes. But if Dr. Kang is right, something worse than the Council is coming. We need to know what it is. Bora nodded slowly. I'll need a small ship. Fast. And a crew that understands they might not come back. You'll have it. 2 weeks later, Bora's ship, the scout vessel Taihua, slipped out of human space. Her crew was small. Just 12 people. They were volunteers. All of them knew the risks. The journey to the rim took 18 days. As they got closer, the sensors went crazy. Space itself was twisted in this region. Reality felt thin, like paper stretched too tight. There, Bora's pilot said, pointing at the screen. Wormhole forming. 2 million kilometers ahead. They watched as space tore open. The wormhole was massive, 10 times bigger than anything humanity had ever created. Energy poured out of it like water from a broken dam. Get closer, Bora ordered. I want readings on everything. The ship moved forward carefully. Through the sensors, they could see something coming through the wormhole. Ships. No, not ships. Living things. Creatures the size of battleships moving through space like fish through water. What are those? Someone whispered. More came through. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. They moved together like a flock of birds, all connected, all moving as one. Yuna's voice came over the comm from Earth. She had been monitoring their mission remotely. Bora, those readings. They're biological. Those things are alive. How big is the swarm? Bora asked, still counting. At least 50,000 individual organisms, and the wormhole is still open. Bora's hands went cold. 50,000 ship-sized creatures, and more still coming. One of the creatures suddenly changed direction. It turned toward the Tewa. They detected us, the pilot said. Should I run? Bora hesitated. They needed more data. More proof. Not yet. Keep recording. The creature came closer. It was ugly, all teeth and armor and hunger. Other creatures joined it. They were curious about the small human ship. Then one of them opened its mouth. Energy gathered there. Bright and hot now, Bora shouted. Full speed! The Tewa's engines screamed to life. They jumped away just as the creature fired. The energy blast missed them by meters. Space lit up white where it passed. They're following, the weapons officer said. More creatures were chasing them now. Dozens. Their massive bodies moved, faster than they should have been able to. Bora made a decision. Send everything we have back to Earth, all the data, all the recordings. Send it now. The communications officer's fingers flew over the controls. Transmitting, a creature caught up to them. It slammed into the Tewa's side. The ship screamed. Metal tore. Alarms filled the bridge. Hull breach on decks 2 and 3, someone shouted. Another creature hit them. Then another. The ship was breaking apart. Bora gripped her command chair. Keep transmitting. Don't stop. The pilot looked at her. Commander, we need to abandon ship. There's nowhere to go. Bora's voice was calm. Just keep sending the data. The creatures were tearing the ship apart piece by piece. Through the breach in the hull, Bora could see them. Could see their dead black eyes. Could see their hunger. The last thing she transmitted was a simple message. Tell Earth, tell the Council. They're coming. Millions of them. And they're hungry. They eat everything. Stars. Planets. Everything. We're all in danger. Then the Tewa broke apart completely. The transmission ended. On Earth, in the military command center, they received Bora's final message. They received all the data, all the proof. Captain Deho stood in front of the Council's communication channel. He showed them everything. The wormholes. The creatures. Bora's final transmission. This is what's coming, he said. An extragalactic swarm. They've entered our galaxy. Your border colonies are directly in their path. We need to prepare. We need to work together. The Council voted on whether to believe him. The vote was close. But in the end, the elder species won. They classified Bora's transmission as unverified intelligence. They said humans were trying to avoid the sanctions with scare tactics. Continue your compliance, Thelnos ordered. Any delay will be considered an act of war. Deho closed the channel. He looked at the people around him. Yuna was crying. Minho looked ready to start shooting Council ships. Hyunwoo just looked tired. They won't listen, Yuna said. Even with proof. They won't listen. Then we prepare without them, Deho said. Minho, how many ships did you save? The Admiral smiled grimly. More than they know about. Good. Because in about 3 months, the Council is going to realize we were telling the truth. And when they do, they're going to need every ship we have. 2 weeks later, the first Council border colony went silent. Just stopped transmitting. The Council sent a ship to investigate. That ship never came back. Then another colony went dark. Then 3 more. The Council declared it a technical problem. They sent repair crews. Those crews disappeared too. In the darkness at the edge of Council space, the Voral fed. They consumed the colonies completely. Every building. Every ship. Every living thing. They broke down matter and used it to make more of themselves. Lieutenant Junho Park was 23 years old. He had been a pilot for 2 years. Today was supposed to be a simple patrol. Check the border sensors. Look for smugglers, go home. Nothing special. His fighter drifted through the darkness near the edge of Council space. The cockpit was quiet except for the soft beep of the sensors. Junho hummed to himself, bored. 3 more hours until his shift ended. Then every alarm in his ship started screaming at once. What the hell? Junho's hands flew over the controls. His sensors were going crazy. Something massive was coming out of warp space. Something huge. The space in front of him tore open. A wormhole. But it was wrong. Too big, too violent. Energy poured out in waves that made his ship shake. Then they came through. Junho's breath stopped in his throat. He had never seen anything like them. Creatures, living ships. Thousands of them. Each one was bigger than a battleship. They had armor like insects and mouths full of teeth that could swallow a city. This is Lieutenant Junho Park, he said into his comm, trying to keep his voice steady. I need immediate backup at Sector 772. Unknown hostile contacts. Thousands of them. Static answered him. The creatures noticed his small ship. A dozen of them turned in his direction. They moved fast. Too fast, Junho hit his afterburners and ran. His fighter screamed through space. Behind him, the creatures chased. They were gaining. He looked back and saw one open its mouth. Energy gathered there. Bright white light. Junho jerked his fighter to the side just as the creature fired. The energy blast passed so close it made his shield scream. Heat washed through the cockpit. Come on, he muttered, pushing his ship harder. Ahead, he could see a star system. The colony world of Threshold Prime. 2 million people lived there. Mostly Quillith, the same species as Counselor Vextar. Junho activated the emergency channel. Threshold Prime, this is Human Fighter 117. You have incoming hostiles. Evacuate now. The colony's defense coordinator responded. His voice was calm and annoyed. Human pilot, you are in restricted space. Return to your patrol route. There's no time, Junho shouted. They're right behind me. He cleared the edge of the star system. Behind him, the swarm followed. Thousands of creatures pouring into the system like a flood of teeth and hunger. On Threshold Prime, people finally looked up. They saw the swarm coming. For a moment, everything stopped. No one moved. No one understood what they were seeing. Then the creatures reached the outer defense platforms. The automated weapons opened fire. Lasers and missiles and particle beams. The platforms had protected this system for 5,000 years. The creatures ate them, just opened their mouths and consumed the platforms completely. Metal, energy, everything. They broke it down and absorbed it. Panic exploded across the colony. People ran for evacuation ships. But there weren't enough ships. There had never needed to be enough ships. Threshold Prime was safe. The Council protected it. The creatures reached the first orbital station. 300,000 people lived there. The station's shields went up. The creatures landed on the shields and started eating them. The energy barrier flickered and died. Junho watched from his cockpit. He wanted to help, wanted to do something, but his fighter had 2 small missiles and a laser cannon. What could he do against thousands of these things? The orbital station broke apart. Bodies and air and debris exploded into space. The creatures consumed it all. Then they went to the planet. Junho forced himself to keep watching. To record everything. Someone needed to see this. Someone needed to know. The creatures landed on Threshold Prime like a plague. They touched the ground and started eating. Buildings, trees, oceans, everything. The planet's crust cracked as they burrowed deeper, consuming the rock itself. In 6 hours, Threshold Prime was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. The creatures had eaten the entire planet. Even the core. Where a world had been, there was only empty space, and the swarm had grown. They had used the planet's mass to create more of themselves. Now there were tens of thousands of them. Junho finally managed to restart his communication system. Command, this is Lieutenant Park. Threshold Prime is gone. The entire planet. 2 million casualties. The hostiles are still spreading. They're heading deeper into Council space. This time, people listened. On the Council station, Thelnos stared at the recordings Junho had sent. The crystalline being's light flickered. Fear. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Council felt fear. How many? Thelnos asked. At least 60,000 individual organisms, the military coordinator said, and growing. Every system they consume gives them more mass to create more of themselves. Counselor Vextar stood frozen. His home system was 3 jumps away from Threshold Prime. 3 jumps away from those things. Activate the defense network. The ancient protocols, everything. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. In all that time, they had built weapons. Powerful weapons. They just never needed to use them. Those weapons had waited in the dark, automated and ready for an enemy that never came. Until now. The defense network activated. Thousands of weapon platforms. Massive stations that could destroy entire fleets. Energy weapons that could crack planets. They had been waiting for 10,000 years. Now they woke up. The Voral reached the first defense station. It opened fire. Beams of pure energy cut through the swarm. Dozens of creatures died instantly. Their bodies vaporized. For a moment, the Council felt hope. Then the rest of the swarm adapted. Their armor changed, thickened. The next energy blast hit them and bounced off. The creatures swarmed over the defense station. In minutes, they had eaten it. Station after station fell. The ancient weapons, the pride of Council engineering, were food for the Voral. Each weapon the Council used, the Voral adapted to. Each defense they tried, the Vorul overcame. How is this possible? Vextar whispered. Dr. Una Park had been watching the battle data from Earth. Now she understood. They're a hive mind. Every creature is connected. When one learns something, they all learn it instantly. Every weapon we use teaches them how to defend against it. Then how do we stop them? Hyunwoo asked. Una pulled up data from Bora's original recordings. There's something here. Look at this pattern. When Bora's ship got close, the creatures moved away from certain sections. The parts of the ship that had radiation shielding. Radiation? Daeho leaned closer. What kind? Nuclear. They avoid nuclear radiation signatures. The room went silent. Nuclear weapons. The Council had banned them 10,000 years ago. Called them barbaric, primitive, unnecessary. Humanity had kept using them anyway. Had improved them. Had built weapons the Council couldn't even imagine. Daeho activated the emergency channel to the Council. Thelnos appeared on screen. The Arbiter looked smaller somehow. Frightened. We know how to hurt them, Daeho said without greeting. Nuclear weapons. They can't adapt to nuclear radiation, but you banned those weapons. We didn't. Thelnos' light flickered rapidly. Captain Kim, the Council would like to... We need to discuss the sanctions, Daeho finished. You want us to break them. You want our weapons, our ships, our help. 7 species homeworlds are in the Voral's direct path, Thelnos said quietly. Billions will die, please. Daeho looked at the people around him. Yuna nodded. So did Minho and Hyunwoo. We'll help, Daeho said. But after this is over, things change. No more junior status. No more sanctions. Humanity gets a real voice in the Council. Agreed. And you publicly admit you were wrong. About us, about everything. Thelnos hesitated. Pride warred with fear. Fear won. Agreed. Then we're coming. Hold your positions as long as you can. The channel closed. Daeho turned to Minho. Admiral, how fast can you mobilize the fleet? Minho smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. The fleet that I supposedly dismantled? 24 hours. We kept the crews on standby, do it. And someone get me every nuclear weapon we have. I don't care if we have to strip our missile silos. We're going to need everything. Across human space, alarms went out. Every colony, every ship, every soldier who had been sent home. They got the message. The ban was lifted. Humanity was going to war. Admiral Minho's dismantled fleet appeared from the shadows. Ships that were supposed to be scrapped. Weapons that were supposed to be destroyed. Soldiers who were supposed to be civilians. They had been waiting for this. The humans loaded their ships with nuclear weapons, fusion bombs, antimatter warheads. Every terrible weapon they had ever designed. The weapons the Council called barbaric. The weapons humanity had never stopped building. On the Council station, Vextar watched the human fleet assemble. They disobeyed the sanctions. They lied to us. They kept their military. They did, Thelnos agreed. We should be angry. We should, Thelnos said. But right now I'm just grateful they did. The Voral consumed another system. Their numbers swelled to over 200,000. They were unstoppable. They were hunger made real. But now humanity was coming. And humanity had been fighting since before they learned to walk upright. They had been killing each other with increasingly terrible weapons for thousands of years. They knew war in a way the peaceful Council species had forgotten. The Voral were about to learn what it meant to fight a species that had never stopped being dangerous. In the darkness, the two forces moved toward each other. The ancient hunger from beyond the stars. The refugee ships came in waves, millions of aliens fleeing their homes. They poured into the few safe systems that remained, bringing only what they could carry. Families clutched children. Old ones stared back at the stars where their worlds had been. The Great Council civilization was crumbling and no one could stop it, except maybe the humans. Admiral Minho Choi stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Seoul, and watched his fleet assemble. He had lied to the Council for 3 months. Hidden ships. Kept crews on secret duty. Falsified decommission reports. If the Voral hadn't come, he would have been tried for treason. Now the Council was begging for those same ships. Final count? He asked his operations officer. 347 warships. Another 200 support vessels. And every transport we could convert to carry troops. Minho nodded. It wasn't enough. Not against hundreds of thousands of Voral, but it was what they had. And the weapons? Every nuclear weapon from Earth and the colonies. Fusion bombs. Antimatter warheads. We stripped our own defense systems to get them. If the Varul get past us, Earth will be defenseless. Then we don't let them get past us. General Taeyong Huang's face appeared on the comm screen. The Marine commander looked tired but fierce. My people are loaded and ready. 20,000 Marines. The council said we disbanded them. Turns out we're terrible at following orders. Minho allowed himself a small smile. How many of your Marines are civilians who happen to keep their combat armor? All of them. Funny how that worked out. Across the fleet, soldiers checked their weapons. Marines who were supposed to be farmers or factory workers. Pilots who were supposed to be flying cargo ships. Engineers who had kept building weapons in secret. They had all kept their skills sharp, knowing this day might come. Captain Yoonji Lim had been a submarine commander on Earth. Now she commanded a destroyer squadron. She had spent weeks studying the Voral's attack patterns from Junho's recordings and the few ships that had survived encounters with them. They attack in swarms, she explained at the fleet briefing. Overwhelming force from all directions. It works because most species panic and scatter. We're not going to do that. She pulled up a tactical display. We create kill zones, overlapping fields of fire. The Voral come at us, they fly into a wall of nuclear fire. We stay tight. We stay coordinated. We make them pay for every meter. What about their adaptation? Someone asked. They learn from every weapon we use. That's why we hit them with everything at once. Every type of nuclear weapon. Different yields. Different delivery methods. We overwhelm their ability to adapt. And we keep moving. Never give them time to figure us out. Dr. Una Park had been working non-stop for days. She had turned her laboratory into a weapons development center. The peaceful scientist who believed in cooperation was now designing bombs. The Sunburst Protocol is ready, she announced. Specialized nuclear weapons designed to maximize radiation output. The Vural can't adapt to this. Their biology can't handle it. These weapons won't just kill them. They'll poison entire regions of space against them. Diho looked at the weapon specifications. Each sunburst bomb would make a section of space uninhabitable for the Voral for months. How many do we have? 60. We can make more, but we need time. Time is what we don't have. Ambassador Hyunwoo had been doing his own work. While the military prepared, he had been talking to other species. Building alliances, finding anyone who would stand with humanity. The Thelian Concordat is with us, he reported. Ambassador Sora Han convinced her people to provide ships and supplies. They're bringing 200 vessels. Any others? 17 species have pledged support. Most can only send a few ships. But the Quellan are sending their entire defense fleet. 50 ships, why? Minyo asked. The Quellan barely know us. Because we asked for their help when the council wouldn't. We sent evacuation ships to their colonies. We shared our tactical data. They remember that. More species joined every day, not because they loved humanity, because humanity was the only one fighting back. The council had collapsed into arguing and paralysis. The elder species were too proud to admit their way had failed. The younger species were too afraid to act, but humans acted. Humans always acted. Narabek wasn't military. She was a farmer on the colony world of New Jeju. But when the military pulled out, she organized the colonists. They armed themselves with mining equipment and old weapons. They built defenses around their settlements. 200,000 civilians who refused to run. If the Voral come here, we'll make them pay, she told her people. This is our home. We stay. The Voral reached New Jeju 3 weeks after the verdict had been handed down. Millions of creatures descended on the colony world like locusts. Nara's people fought. Mining lasers cut through Voral armor. Explosives brought down the smaller ones. Civilians in construction mechs punched creatures that outweighed them by tons. They held for 6 hours. Then the human fleet arrived. Minho had gambled. He had pulled his ships away from defending council worlds and brought them here. To save New Jeju, to save humans, all ships, he ordered. Fire at will. 300 human warships opened up at once. Nuclear missiles streaked through space. Fusion bombs detonated in brilliant flashes. Antimatter warheads tore holes in reality. The Voral swarm shattered under the assault. Yoonji's kill zone strategy worked perfectly. The Voral flew into overlapping fields of fire. Every direction they turned, more nuclear weapons hit them. They tried to adapt, tried to change their armor. But every time they adapted to one type of weapon, a different type hit them. In 30 minutes, the human fleet destroyed over 50,000 Voral. It was the first major victory against them. On the surface, Nara and her people watched the sky burn. They cried and cheered and held each other. They had survived. The news spread across the galaxy like lightning. Humanity had fought the Voral and won. Species that had given up hope suddenly had a reason to believe again, but the Council's remaining leadership was humiliated. They had built their civilization on being superior, on being more advanced, more evolved, and it was the primitive humans who had to save them. Thelnos called a meeting of what remained of the Council. Most of the elder species were there, including Vextar, who looked smaller now, less certain. "We need to formally rescind the sanctions against humanity," Thelnos said, "and request their full military cooperation." "Unacceptable," one of the elder counselors said. "We gave them those sanctions for good reason." "They are dangerous." "Then where is your fleet?" Yuna asked. She had joined the meeting via comm. "Where are your soldiers? Your weapons? You banned them all. Called them primitive. Now your people are dying and you have nothing to defend them with." "We chose peace, you chose arrogance," Deho said, standing next to Yuna. "You thought you were safe because you'd been safe for 10,000 years. You thought military strength was beneath you. We tried to warn you. You wouldn't listen." Vextar spoke for the first time. His voice was quiet. "I wouldn't listen. I thought we had evolved beyond war. I was wrong." The chamber went silent. "I grew up in a time of perfect peace," Vextar continued. "My species hasn't seen war in 50,000 years. We forgot what it looks like, what it costs. We thought violence was a disease that we had cured." He looked at the humans. "But you remembered. You never forgot. And now you're paying the price for our ignorance." "The sanctions are rescinded," Thelnos announced. "Humanity is granted full council status with voting rights. Effective immediately. That's not enough," Minho said. "We need every species that can fight to fight. We need all your technology, all your resources." The Voral have consumed 400 star systems. They're still growing. This isn't just about saving a few worlds. This is about saving the galaxy. What do you propose? Give us command. Let us coordinate the defense. Let us do what we do best. The elder species struggled with that. To put their fate in the hands of a species barely older than their youngest colonies. To admit that the humans understood war better than they did, but they had no choice. "Agreed," Thelnos said. "Admiral Choi, you have supreme command of all Council military forces." Minho nodded. Then he activated the fleet-wide channel. Every ship, every species, every soldier. They all heard him. "This is Admiral Choi of Earth. As of now, we stop running. We stop reacting. We take the fight to the Voral. Every species will contribute ships and soldiers. We will organize into combined task forces. We will share technology and tactics. We will fight together or we will die separately." He pulled up a star map. "The Voral are heading toward the galactic core. If they reach it, if they consume the supermassive black hole's accretion disk, they will have unlimited energy to reproduce. They will become unstoppable. We have one chance to stop them, one battle. We make our stand at the Terminus cluster. Every ship we have, every weapon. We hit them with everything. That's 6 weeks from now," someone said. "Can we be ready?" "We have to be." Across the galaxy, species that had never worked together started training as one fleet. Human Marines taught alien soldiers tactics. Alien engineers showed humans new technologies. Everyone shared everything. There was no time for politics or pride. Nara Bayek and her colonists rebuilt New Jeju, but now they had military support, weapons, training. When the Voral came again, New Jeju would be ready. The Terminus cluster was a graveyard of stars. 20 dead systems clustered together, their planets long ago consumed by their dying suns. Nothing lived here. Nothing had ever lived here. It was the perfect place for a last stand. 10,000 ships waited in the darkness. 200 species had sent their military forces. Some sent everything they had. Others sent what they could spare. All of them knew this was the only chance. If they failed here, the galaxy died. Fleet Commander Jeju Ryu stood in the command center aboard the supercarrier Incheon. Screens surrounded him, showing every ship in the fleet. 3,000 human vessels, 7,000 alien ships, all waiting for his orders. Jeju was 39 years old. He had been a tactical officer before the Voral came. Now he commanded the largest military force in galactic history. He had spent 6 weeks learning how each species fought, how their ships moved, how their weapons worked. He had turned 10,000 individual ships into one fleet. "Status?" he asked. All ships report ready, his second officer said. Weapons armed. Crews at battle stations. The Voral will reach this position in 4 hours. 4 hours. Jeju looked at the tactical display. The Voral were coming as a solid mass. Over 1 million creatures moving as one. They had consumed 400 star systems. Billions had died. And now they were heading for the galactic core, where unlimited energy waited. Admiral Minho's voice came over the command channel. All ships, this is Admiral Choi. In a few hours we face an enemy that destroyed its own galaxy. An enemy that sees us as nothing but food. But they made a mistake. They came here, to our galaxy, our home, and we don't give up our home without a fight. Captain Deho stood next to Minho on the Soul's bridge. He was too old to be in combat, but he had refused to stay behind. He watched the countdown timer. 3 hours and 58 minutes. Dr. Una Park was aboard a science vessel at the rear of the formation. She monitored the sunburst weapons. 60 of them were spread throughout the fleet. Each one could poison a huge area of space against the Voral. But they had to be used at the right moment. Phase 1 forces, move into position, Jeju ordered. A third of the fleet moved forward. These were the fastest ships. Human destroyers, Thelian interceptors, Quellan raiders. Their job was to stop the Voral from spreading out. To keep them bunched together. Phase 2, prepare firing solutions. The main battle line powered up their weapons. Every species had brought their most powerful ships. Battleships that could crack planets, carriers filled with fighters. Weapons platforms that existed only to kill. Phase 3, standby with sunburst weapons. Yuna's hands shook as she armed the first weapon. This was it. Everything came down to the next few hours. The Varul arrived exactly on time. They poured into the Terminus cluster like a black tide, ship-sized creatures with armor and teeth and hunger, so many of them that they blocked out the stars. Contact, the sensor officer announced. Voral swarm detected. Estimated count 1.2 million, 1.2 million. Against 10,000 ships, Phase 1, engage. Jeju ordered. The fast ships screamed forward. They hit the edges of the Voral swarm with everything they had. Nuclear missiles, fusion bombs, kinetic rounds moving at relativistic speeds. The Voral tried to spread out to surround the attackers, but every time they moved, more ships cut them off. Lieutenant Junho led his fighter squadron into the swarm. He had survived the first encounter with the Voral. Now he was back for more. Stay tight. Don't let them separate us. His squadron dove through clouds of Voral, weapons blazing. Creatures died by the dozens. But more kept coming. Always more. A Voral latched onto his wingman's ship. Junho didn't hesitate. He spun and fired, blowing the creature apart, but another replaced it immediately. They're adapting to our weapons, someone called over the comm. Keep firing, Junho replied. Make them adapt to everything at once, that was the strategy. Hit them with every weapon type humanity had developed, every variation. Force them to adapt so fast they couldn't keep up. Ensign Hanao flew a bomber loaded with fusion weapons. She was 22 years old. This was her first real combat mission. She was terrified. Bomber group, her commander ordered. Target the dense cluster at grid 472. Full payload. Hana lined up her shot. Her hand steadied. She thought about her family on Earth. About her little sister who wanted to be a pilot like her. About everyone depending on them to win, she fired. 20 fusion bombs streaked into the Voral cluster. The detonations lit up space like a new sun. Hundreds of creatures died instantly, but thousands more kept coming. Phase 2, open fire. Jeju commanded. The main battle line unleashed hell. Every ship fired at once. Energy weapons that could vaporize asteroids. Missiles by the thousands. Particle beams that tore through Voral armor. The space between the fleets became a wall of fire and death. The Voral crashed into that wall. They died by the thousands, but their numbers were so vast that the thousands barely mattered. They kept coming. Kept pushing forward. They're trying to break through on the left flank, the tactical officer said. Reinforce that section. Don't let them through. Ships move to plug the gap. Human cruisers working alongside Thelian destroyers and Quellan frigates. Species that had never fought together before now moving as one. The battle raged for 6 hours. The longest continuous space engagement in recorded history. Ships ran out of missiles and switched to energy weapons. Those ran hot and they switched to kinetic rounds. When those ran out, some ships just rammed the Voral Captain Yunji Lim's destroyer took heavy damage. A Voral had torn through her port side. Half her crew was dead, but she kept fighting. kept coordinating her squadron, kept pushing the Voral back. "We're losing too many ships," Minho said, watching the casualty reports climb. 4,000 ships destroyed. 40% of the fleet. Millions dead. "But we're winning," Deho replied. He pointed at the display. The Voral numbers were dropping. Faster than the fleets. They had started with 1.2 million. Now they were down to 800,000. But the fleet couldn't take much more. "Phase 3, Jeju said quietly. "Deploy sunburst weapons." Yuna armed all 60 weapons at once. "Sunburst weapons active. Deploying now." The weapons scattered through the battlefield. Small bombs that didn't look like much. The Voral ignored them. Just more human tricks, then they detonated. Space itself seemed to scream. Radiation poured out in waves. Not the instant death of fusion weapons, but something worse. Something that poisoned. That corrupted. That made space itself hostile to the Voral. The creatures flew into the radiation fields and started dying. Not quickly. Slowly, painfully. Their armor cracked. Their bodies broke down. They tried to adapt, but couldn't. The radiation was too widespread. Too varied. Too much. "It's working," Yuna whispered. "It's actually working." The Voral swarm fractured. They tried to retreat, but the radiation fields were everywhere. Overlapping, no way out. They were trapped in a cage of poison. "All ships, final assault," Minho ordered. "Finish them!" What remained of the fleet surged forward. 6,000 ships against 600,000 Voral. But the Voral were dying, weakened, unable to adapt. The battle became a slaughter. The Voral who had consumed entire civilizations were hunted down one by one, destroyed, eliminated. But they fought back. Desperate and dying, they lashed out with everything they had. Hana's bomber took a direct hit. Her engines died. Life support failed. She drifted through the battlefield, watching the battle continue around her. "This is Ensign Hana O," she said into her dying comm. "My ship is gone, but I can still help. I have 5 fusion bombs left. I'm setting them to detonate on my position. Sending you the coordinates. Drive the Voral toward me." "Negative," her commander said. "We can rescue you. No time. Just drive them toward me. Make my death count." Jeju looked at Hana's position on the display. A large cluster of Voral was moving near her. If those bombs detonated there, it would kill thousands of them. He made the hardest decision of his life. "All ships drive the Voral toward grid 937. The fleet pushed. The Voral fell back, right toward Hana's position. Hana watched them come. She thought about her sister one last time. Then she triggered the detonation. The explosion tore a hole in the battlefield. 15,000 Voral died instantly. The blast created an opening in their formation. "Through the gap," Jeju ordered. "Now!" The fleet poured through. They split the Voral swarm in half, divided them, destroyed them piece by piece. The battle lasted 14 days. 2 weeks of continuous fighting. Ships rotating out to refuel and rearm, then returning to the fight. Crews working until they collapsed from exhaustion. On day 12, the Varul tried one final desperate assault. They gathered every remaining creature and charged the human command ship. "The Soul. They're coming for us," Minho said calmly. "Let them come," Deho replied. Every ship in the fleet moved to protect the Soul. They formed a wall of steel and fire. The Voral crashed into that wall and broke. On day 14, the last Voral died, shot apart by a human fighter pilot who had been fighting for 36 hours straight. Silence fell across the battlefield. 67,000 ships had been destroyed. 4 million people were dead. 15 species had been rendered extinct during the larger war. The Terminus cluster was filled with debris and bodies, but the galaxy survived in the ruins of the Council Station.